In the heart of the rolling hills of the Great Plains, where the horizon stretches until it touches the sky, there lived a creature of immense strength. His name was Tempo, a magnificent bull with a coat of deep mahogany and horns that curved like the arches of an ancient cathedral. But what made Tempo truly remarkable was not his physical power, it was his profound and unshakable patience. On the sprawling acres of the Sterling Ranch, Tempo was the solid foundation upon which everything rested for survival. He pulled the heaviest plows through the stubborn, sun-baked earth under the scorching heat of the plains. He hauled wagons loaded with heavy timber that would have broken the spirit of any 3 lesser animals. Through the biting frost of winter and the suffocating humidity of summer, Tempo worked without a single grunt of protest. He was the silent engine of the farm, a gentle giant who understood that strength was a gift to be shared, not a weapon. The owner of the ranch was Garrett, who in the early years was a man of integrity and deep understanding. Garrett used to see Tempo as a true partner, brushing the bull's coat until it shone brilliantly under the sun. He ensured Tempo's trough was always filled with cool water and spoke to him with a voice full of sincere gratitude. Garrett knew that without Tempo, the Sterling Ranch would be nothing but a collection of empty and desolate fields. A silent contract existed between them, labor for loyalty, and hard service for mutual respect. But prosperity has a way of rotting a man's soul if he isn't careful enough to maintain his character. As the ranch grew and profits poured in, Garrett's heart began to harden and become increasingly cold. He stopped seeing Tempo as a living soul and started seeing him as a piece of equipment, like a rusted tractor. The gratitude in Garrett's voice was replaced by sharp, demanding tones and orders full of constant pressure. The portions of sweet hay grew smaller, while the hours of hard labor grew longer for Tempo every single day. Yet Tempo remained silent, bowing his head and leaning his massive weight into the harness to continue pulling. He believed that if he worked harder, perhaps the man he once respected would return to his former self. Everything changed completely the day Silas, Garrett's younger brother, arrived at the ranch with a narrow mind. Silas was a man with a narrow face and even narrower empathy for any living creature around him. Silas didn't just want the ranch to be productive, he wanted every creature there to be dominated and broken. He viewed Tempo's gentleness not as a virtue, but as a flaw that deserved to be treated with contempt. To Silas, an animal that did not fear its master was an animal that had not been properly broken or taught. Silas often sneered at Garrett for being too soft on the lazy beast, whenever he saw Tempo moving calmly. Under Silas's influence, the last remnants of respect in Garrett's heart vanished completely. They began to bind Tempo with ropes that were far too tight, leaving raw and bloody welts across his neck. They cut his rest periods in half despite the most extreme and harsh weather conditions. One afternoon, under a sun like a hammer, Tempo's legs buckled after 6 hours of pulling stones without water. He didn't collapse out of defiance. He collapsed because his body simply could not go on any longer. Instead of a bucket of refreshing water, Tempo received the painful sting of Silas's leather whip. Silas screamed and lashed out repeatedly, while Garrett stood by in a silence that felt like a deep betrayal. Tempo didn't roar or kick. He slowly gathered his remaining strength to rise and finish the final task. But in his deep, dark eyes, the light of loyalty had gone out, replaced by a cold and crystalline clarity. He realized that his silence was being mistaken for weakness, and his patience was treated as permission for abuse. That night, the moon hung low and silver over the ranch, and the air was as still as if the earth held its breath. Inside the barn, the other animals sensed the change and looked toward Tempo's heavy wooden stall. Tempo wasn't sleeping. He stood perfectly still with his eyes fixed on the distant horizon through the barn slats. He understood a truth that men like Silas would never learn. The most dangerous moment is when a patient man stops caring. With a slow, deliberate movement, Tempo leaned his shoulder against the heavy oak beam and pushed with immense force. The wood splintered like dry matches as he stepped out of confinement and walked toward the main gate. He walked through the heavy wire and timber fence as if it were made of thin and fragile spider silk. In the open field, he let out a low, resonant hum, not a call to war, but a powerful call to freedom. One by one, the other animals followed him, breaking the chains and the entire system of their long captivity. The next morning, Garrett and Silas faced the haunting silence, empty corrals, and the realization that their engine was gone. Garrett realized Tempo hadn't run in fear. He had walked away in dignity after his respect was completely stripped. The story reminds us that true strength is knowing when to leave, and silence is never a sign of weakness.